Today, our focus is going to be on the arts. So I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Sara Parkinson, for Boulder Reopening Series, The Arts. Sara is the executive director of the Boulder Phil. She's a touring artist with the Central City Opera, which is one of the most amazing treasures that we have in Colorado. So, thanks for that. And I'd love to hear more about that if we could. She's also a pianist with the Colorado Ballet. She went to CU, the New England Conservatory of Music, and the University of Iowa, and she's been a proud member of Boulder Rotary since December of 2020. So thanks so much, Sara, and I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chad, for that introduction. I think before I share my screen, I'll just start with a personal note, because I am a member of this club and I'm a proud member of this club. And I'm used to visiting Rotary clubs at the piano and sharing music. So this is the first time that I am the speaker with a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm delighted, and I look forward to meeting so many more of you. I know I've only met probably a dozen or so of you so far, and I've known many of you for a long time. But I think building relationships with all of you is very important to me, beyond my title, right? We are all more than our titles. And, when COVID hit, I was living the artist's life fully. And it sort of, COVID didn't take it away, but it made things change a lot for me. So I stepped into the orchestral management role pretty quickly after COVID arrived, and all of our artists' lives had changed, and the stage was taken away from us. And the place where we do our work, the place where we get to share with our audiences in person, escaped us. And I think there was a lot of grief around our community that many, I know my opera singer friends especially, experienced, because aerosols were the most difficult to address that problem and sharing with people. So I'm happy to be here, and let's get started. I've got some pictures to share and stories to share about how the Boulder Philharmonic came through the pandemic and is continuing to do so as we launched our new season. So here is a little presentation. So hope you all can see this okay. Is everything good? Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, okay. So here we are in Boulder, Colorado. Of course, you all recognize Mackey Auditorium. That is our home as an orchestra. But we also live beyond that concert hall, and I'll talk about more of that today. Let's see. So our mission at the Boulder Phil is to enhance the Boulder region's artistic and educational cultures through orchestral excellence, embracing diversity and connecting people to music, music to ideas, and people to people. So that's a new mission statement just within the last 18 months that our board worked hard on. And I think we did an excellent job maintaining our focus on that mission through the pandemic and connecting online, just as we have here at Rotary through Zoom, making sure that people still can experience music as a way to reflect on life, as a way to reset and re-engage with each other. So our mission centers us, and we think about it a lot. Something else within our mission that we focused on this year, and the pandemic allowed us the time to do so, was to embrace diversity and talk about diversity, our focus of diversity as an organization. And it created a diversity committee within our board, and we met several times over the course of the last year to come up with a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. So I wanted to share that with you all here today. It's very important to us, and I think important to our whole community, that our arts organizations are thinking in this way. And why isn't it moving? There we go. So the Boulder Philharmonic values sharing the life-enriching potential of orchestral music with all members of the community that we serve. We want everyone, regardless of age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, religious affiliation, physical capacity, income level, or educational attainment, to have access to the music we make and to feel welcomed by us. We are not a museum. We are alive and vibrant. Acknowledging the shortcomings of our past efforts and exploring new ways that allow people to recognize something of themselves in what we do and experience a sense of connection to orchestral music, we commit to presenting music in ways that evoke a sense of shared humanity among the composers, performers, and listeners involved. So that really comes into play when we're meeting as an artistic committee with members of the orchestra, members of the board, and the community, with our amazing music director, Michael Butterman. When we make artistic decisions, we think about who those people, what voices are being heard on our stage. We'll offer music written by and performed by creators of diverse identities, and we will support education and community engagement projects targeted to people in our community who might not otherwise have the opportunity to engage with orchestral music. And we will direct our commissioning efforts. That's when we have a composer write a piece for us, to a wide range of composers and collaborate with a wide array of partners, and increase the diversity of perspectives brought to bear, the board, staff, musicians, and community members on organizational decisions and actions. And we will discover and eliminate barriers that limit access to our music, whether it's physical or financial or otherwise. So today, I'm going to talk about just a few different aspects of our organization and introduce our new season to you. We are your orchestra, and what does that mean? You'll see that in the marketing of lots of major orchestras, the Boston Symphony, the Colorado Symphony, the Chicago Symphony. They'll say your orchestra. And I know that means a lot to me, but what does that mean to you? So being a part of the community is essential to our work. And that brings us to education and community engagement. And, you know, what does the Boulder Phil do in our community to support music education and be alive in the community? And then we'll talk about a little bit about season planning and what that looked like for us, and how we saw a light at the end of the tunnel way before anyone else did, because that's how we have to plan when you're dealing with, you know, a 75-person orchestra that you're under contract with, and you have to book guest artists way in advance. We plan our seasons at least 12 months in advance. So having conversations in January of 2021 about what the following season could look like, and pushing those deadlines as late as we could to adjust to all the COVID issues and vaccine news. And then we'll see our 21-22 season. So first of all, we have our wonderful music director, Michael Butterman. He will be with us now for 15 years. We're heading into his 15th season. He's wonderful. I think many of you know him. He's an incredibly inspiring music director for us. And he leads us on projects that are artistically exciting and innovative. And he definitely attracts talent well beyond our state border, and even across oceans. So it's really fun to have him as our leader artistically. So that's Michael. And then, of course, this is our view from the stage, and this is why we do what we do, looking out and connecting with our public, with the audience, and making sure that we're touching people's lives, you know, and allowing music to enhance the quality of life here in Boulder. So our education and community engagement activities are near and dear to me, because that was the role I had first here at the orchestra, starting in February of 2019. And, you know, I headed up that program and started a couple of new initiatives that are still going today, and they survived the pandemic. So I'll just show you a few of those programs now. One of those is Early Explorers. We partnered with Boulder County Head Start. They have 3 centers. 2 of those are in Lafayette. One is near the YMCA in Arapahoe, and the other one is, you know, closer to downtown. And then the other is here in City of Boulder, Mapleton Center. And so we will now be starting this fall, thanks to the Boulder Arts Commission funding. We will be in all 3 centers providing free access to music and movement lessons in partnership with Integral Steps, which is a small nonprofit organization that focuses on early childhood education. And that you'll see here are, we did some outdoor classes here during COVID. We bring instruments. Our principal percussionist, Mike Tetro, went and visited, and those kiddos got to play every instrument that he had to share. It was very fun. Those are my favorite days, visiting those classes and taking these pictures. And then we often go to Kids at the Dairy. So the Dairy Arts Center has a program for Title I kindergartners here in Boulder Valley. And you'll see our brass quintet up close and personal with our wonderful conductors there, as I led them in sessions with Meet the Maestra in the lobby, and then brought them in for the performance to conduct the brass players. And that's a lot of fun too, to see the joy in those kids' faces and bring our orchestra so close to the little ones. We also have our Discovery program, which consists of in-school chamber music visits by brass quintet and string quartet and woodwind quintet. And the kids get to ask questions of professional musicians. And then we also have the Meet the Maestro, where Michael Butterman visits classrooms and gives them a taste of what it's like to conduct and what he has to think about as a leader in music. And then it all culminates in a field trip to Mackey Auditorium for our Discovery concert. So that's our largest education program, and I'll show you more of those numbers. So you'll see here, Michael also visits local high schools and middle schools to lead their in-school ensembles. And I happened to go up to Ned to visit their elementary school for a whole day before COVID, and had a lot of fun with the kids from kindergarten through 5th grade. So we love reaching the little ones, I have to say. So our Discovery concert fills up Mackey Auditorium each year, and it just continues to grow. So in our program impact before COVID hit, we had 48 schools participating, and 30 of those are with BVSD. And it's Boulder and Broomfield, Adams, and Arapahoe counties. Thanks to SCFD funding, we can provide no cost tickets for especially the Title I schools and beyond. Anyone who asks for help gets it. And we also give bus stipends so the kids can come to the hall. So our total number of students that year was just over 4,500. And then last year we went all online. So I wanted to show you the impact of what going online did for us right here. So thanks to international teachers and social media postings and networking, we reached over 16,000 children, and it's overwhelming to see that number, and it was absolutely free. We provided a whole month of online content, and we even extended it a few weeks because teachers needed our support, especially in music education. They were scrambling every month, right, to adjust to their new normal through the pandemic. So it was an honor to be able to provide high quality music education resources for them. And that included an entire Discovery concert curated by Michael Butterman. That was 45 minutes that kids could watch at home or at school. And then recordings of our chamber music groups. So we were able to employ our musicians to create those videos this year. And that helped sustain us, and it helped sustain our musicians through the pandemic. So how does this Discovery concert look this year? That's a big question because of the lack of vaccines for 12 and under. So what we have decided to do, and it is a difficult decision to put the brakes on something at this time, but it takes 6 months at least to plan that, to have a field trip for educators, to arrange for buses. And because of the busing shortage for BVSD, I think some of you may know about that. They're having trouble finding bus drivers, and there's a shortage of buses this coming school year. That will add to the difficulty of trying to get children into Mackey this year. So we will do an online program again, and we are confident that we'll be able to still reach the number of students we always have been able to reach and inspire them through online content and small ensembles visiting schools, just in a more robust way. So that's how we are staying flexible within the current environment, which I'm sure you all can understand that planning for those, those who can't be vaccinated is the hardest thing to do at this time. So this is just another way of capturing what it feels like to be at a Discovery concert, all of the energy in the room, and we can't wait to do that again when we fully come back in the 2022-23 season. So we also started the Emerging Composers Program in 2019, partnered with Carter Pan at the CU College of Music. They're fabulous partners. We love working with them. They're graduate students in composition, mentor high schoolers who are interested in creating and writing their own music. So we've worked with Legacy High School in Broomfield, and this year we were with Boulder High, and it went all online. So that was wonderful. And it actually informed us for our planning this year. So we will do a hybrid of in-person and online. It'll make it easier for them to have more sessions with their mentors to write orchestral music for an octet of Boulder Phil musicians to perform. So season planning in a transitional year, I continue to stress to our board and our staff that this is a transitional year that we're entering. We're not just stepping back fully into a normal year, even though our programming looks that way. We know that we can't anticipate the full, packing them in Mackey as we have been able to do before. And of course, we're just remaining hopeful. But one way we did that was we delayed our season to start in January fully in Mackey instead of in the fall like we normally would. So we worked with Mackey Auditorium and CU Boulder to talk about those COVID restrictions. So let's see, there we go. So I've also spoken with colleagues from the League of American Orchestras, and I watch them closely to see how they're planning their seasons. So last January, when everyone started planning for this upcoming season, we would speak a lot together to see across the board, how are other states handling it? So we're impacted by that and influenced by their decisions. And our union we are a unionized orchestra with a per service agreement with our musicians. And we have sent out a survey and we're just waiting to hear back. But most of our musicians also play with Opera Colorado and Central City Opera, and they've already been surveyed, and around 95% of our musicians are likely already vaccinated. So that's good news as we can move forward with a bit more confidence and share that with our patrons. And of course, the audience confidence in us in planning for a return to the hall. So we are grateful for our confident audience. And then we work with Mackey closely, and we will have to follow their procedures, and we're watching those closely, and we'll continue to adjust. So there is still a lot of flexibility as we head into this season, and that includes ticketing policies with refunds. I think we've all learned as arts organizations that absolutely we will refund your ticket or transfer it to credit. There's nothing that is in stone anymore. The world is a different place. So now we will start our season sort of in a soft start with smaller concerts over at Mountain View United Methodist Church. So on October 3rd, we have small orchestra pieces by Haydn, which will be refreshing to hear back in the hall or at the church, and Martin's Petite Symphonie Concertante, which is he's a Swiss composer who wrote that piece for it's a harpsichord, and piano soloists with a double orchestra behind it of a small number of musicians in each orchestra. So that should be a really, really fun concert. Something intriguing to listen to there in the second half. And then the Art of Jazz on Saturday, October 30th. Michael will be here conducting, and the Shostakovich. I don't know if any of you know his jazz suites, but they're very eccentric and really fun to play. And then Mio's Creation of the World, and Kurt Weill's just a few scenes from his Three Penny Music. So those are some fun, shorter concerts. They're only 1 hour long, and there will be no intermission, just to alleviate any of the front of house crowding. So we don't know what to expect, and so it's okay if it's we're anticipating possibly a smaller audience with some social distancing in place. We'll just have to see what October brings, and we'll respond quickly for our planning. And then we have our Nutcracker with the Boulder Ballet, which is our first return back to Mackey before our subscription season starts. And so we're planning a full Nutcracker, just as the Colorado Ballet is down at the L.A. Calkins Opera House. And then we have opening weekend with Gershwin, which I am so excited about. Marcus Roberts is incredible. He's a jazz pianist. He has solo albums, but he also has this trio with Wynton Marsalis's nephew on the drums. So these guys are coming to town, and they'll perform with us first at Mackey, then down at Lone Tree Arts Center. So this all Gershwin program is going to be very celebratory, and I think it's something that everyone will enjoy. Being back together again, and that's going to be a really fun weekend. Then we have everyone's favorite Beethoven symphony, Beethoven 7. Everyone seems to be playing that this year. It's so beautiful. You may recognize the slow movement from the King's Speech. It's everybody's favorite. And then Rachel Barton Pine is an incredible violinist who's known for her actually heavy metal playing. If you're a Rachel Barton Pine fan, you would know that. But she is premiering a Billy Childs concerto. So Billy Childs is a great jazz pianist and composer, and he's scheduled actually to come to town as well to do a talk. So that will be wonderful. And then what comes next is Terrence Wilson playing Rock 3. So if you're a piano concerto fan, that will be an exciting evening. And we'll have the screen down for the first two pieces with some commissioned artwork and video for the Havanas and the McTee. Then one of the programs that we had to cancel just as COVID hit was this program with a slight change, but we will have our principal violinist, our concertmaster, Chaz from CU Boulder, Chaz Weatherby. He'll be playing the Butterfly Lovers Violin Concerto as Frequent Flyers is flying above us. So that will be fun. And of course, Stravinsky's Firebird Suite. We actually have programming with our early explorers who may be joining us in the hall for something special during the Firebird Suite. So you may see preschoolers joining us in the hall for that one. And then we have a wonderful debut of Richard O'Neill from the Takosh Quartet, which I couldn't believe that COVID hit when it did. I wanted to see the Takosh in person together in their new formation. And so I think we're all eager for that. So we invited him to play Walton with us, and that is a very well-known, one of the staples of the viola repertoire. And that'll be a lovely concerto. And of course, Anna Klein's Sound and Fury, she wrote that quite recently. And then Elgar's Enigma Variations, which is a very well-known piece that we studied this year in our Phil Learning Center. So yes, Richard O'Neill will be with us. And then we finally end the season with Jake Shimabukuro on his ukulele with his trio, actually, and they come from Hawaii. So that'll be a fun Memorial Day weekend concert. We are hopeful that some of the Boulder racers can be in attendance, and we'll have some excitement around that. So that was a lot of talking. I really am anxious to see your questions, and I just, of course, have to say thanks to our biggest sponsors beyond our patrons and community. So that's what I have. I would love to answer questions now.
Absolutely. And Sarah, I have to say that you said that you were a proud Rotarian. I just want to, we at Boulder Rotary are so proud that you're a member. So what a great presentation. And so we, as our members are putting their questions in the chat, I wanted to start off with a couple of questions. I guess maybe it's the moderator's prerogative. The first one is, I've been taking bagpipe lessons for the last couple of years. And so I was just wondering if you've considered adding a bagpipe student to the orchestra, and if so, what that contract would look like. And then the second question, and that's a hypothetical question, you know, and the second one is, could you talk a little bit about the board? Just kind of curious what type of people are on a board of something like this.
So shall I talk about the board and point them out here? So we're lucky to have in the club our board president, Ronnie Wells, and his valuable wife, Raina, who works hard for our Discovery concerts every year, beyond that as well. And who else is here? I think Dave Folker is here. And gosh, Ronnie, if I'm missing someone, please say something. But our board is wonderful. I love working with them. I think they have been incredibly supportive of the Boulder Phil through this crisis, really. But I find it's a very friendly environment. It's a fun place to be together. And I think Ronnie, if you have anything to say, I welcome your comments about the board if you'd like.
I'll just make one comment. COVID hit everybody very hard, and one of our board members, I will not mention him, said, let's have a COVID relief fund, and he put up $50,000, and we raised almost $200,000, which is basically extra money that's not part of our budget that's there if we have problems. And the way the board and the community, not everybody who contributed to that was on the board, but it was a tremendous vote of confidence in the future of this orchestra, and I was very proud of that particular thing. And we have a wide range of board members, and we have some youngsters. Our treasurer is about the same age as Sarah, and she is Adrienne Tracy, who is a banker in town, and her banking knowledge helps us keep our budget on track, and that's a good thing to have. But we have a wide range of board members, and I'm very proud to be a part of this board, as I am to be a part of this Rotary Club.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. And the answer to my first question?
It's never too late. So absolutely, I welcome all kinds, any age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I do have a kilt, so I would wear the kilt. Okay, so our next question is past President Darrell. Go ahead, Darrell.
My question is a lot more cerebral than Mike Brady's, which I'm sure you're accustomed to. But, this has been bugging me for years. All right. Tell me just how important is the role of the conductor in orchestra music, and particularly the motions and the movement of the conductors, because it seems like it is, but I'd like to hear a professional describe.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question, because before COVID hit, I was heading down that path, and I was conducting. So I know a lot more about it now, coming off the piano bench, and knowing, I guess, the role of the conductor is to be a reliable, calming, energizing presence in front of professional musicians. Right? Well, any musician, but in a professional orchestra, you won't see the eyes up so much, right? They're not glued on the conductor. It's like they can just feel what the conductor is emoting. And so some conductors, they always just do the beat pattern, right? And you just know exactly where you are. And others, you're going to get sort of in between motions. And everyone has their own style. But mainly, I think it's the role of the conductor is just to be, it's sort of the glue up there in making sure we're all not in agreement, because you don't have to always agree, but setting the course for, wow, this is a really convoluted answer. I'm sorry. So, I mean, just because I've had so many different relationships with so many different conductors, and I don't, that sounded terrible too.
Do tell more there, Sarah.
So they can be very mean, right? So they can make you cry. They've made me cry. But it didn't have to do with me. It had to do with something that they were dealing with, because they're so harsh, and that is terrible. And they need to treat people with respect, right? So I think conducting has come a long way in that there is more respect between the conductor and the musicians. I think a lot of conductors just get ignored. I think Michael Butterman has an incredible relationship with our musicians. And I really respect him for that. And I respect our players for that. And that as long as that's healthy, you can feel it from the audience, what that relationship is like. You really can. So that was a really long answer. And Daryl, we'll keep talking.
That was great. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Long but thorough answer.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got Susan Connolly. Go right ahead, Susan.
Hey, Sarah. Sarah, what motivated you to add being an executive leader and administrator to your professional life as a pianist and conductor?
Thanks, Susan. So I saw a need, and I have the tendency to rise to the occasion and fulfill a need. So especially in leadership, and I think that's how it happened. It was this organic growth that happened, that the board allowed to happen. And as much as I appreciate tradition, I find that change is something I'm good at leading through, and crises are something I'm good at leading through. That isn't much different from being a pianist for an opera singer, right? So if she goes 3 pages ahead, I have to act like that. And I know, and I anticipate, and I jump ahead, and no one knows it happened. So I gently lead, from not from behind, but from what's the word? Yeah, maybe from behind, but
or wherever it's needed, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yep. Fulfill the need. And I enjoy it so much. Like I'm building a team now. I already hired someone. I just finished an interview this morning, like building a team, hiring people because of who they are and what they can bring and everything about them. I think that's really important. And I think as a musician, I am still a musician. As a musician, I'm that way, where I let that person's persona, be full, and I support that. So I find that in my leadership as an executive as well, where I fully see the person, I accept who and what they are, and then I find ways to make them better and help support them.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Our next question is Bill Anderson. I think he actually has 2 questions. Go right ahead, Bill.
Thanks. Sarah, thanks so much for coming to talk to us today. This is great. Quick first question, with your transition to the executive role on the orchestra, as a longtime pianist, do you miss it? Are you getting to still play it all with the orchestra, or is that like a no-no in your current role?
Right. Thank you for asking that. Because I've thought about this a lot, and I am a performer, and I will always be a pianist and conductor. So I'm finding ways to continue that even with my executive role. I don't think it's right for me to take place of a pianist in the orchestra. It's my job to hire someone to do that, and allow that opportunity for another pianist. I will step in if I have to, if there's an emergency, right? So I'm always there and willing and able, because we are a small enough town and organization that I think that's okay. To the other side of that, I mean, I still play with a tango group in a quartet in Denver. We're actually traveling to California next weekend. I think the members of the board know that who are here. Yes. Part of my vacation time this summer is to perform at the Festival Mosaic in San Luis Obispo. So Grand Orquesta Navarre is our name. And yeah, so I'm still finding ways to keep that alive, because I can't, you know, they talk about wearing hats and, you know, stepping into this role in the permanent position in May. I really had to, you know, toss and turn with that. You know, am I leaving someone behind? Am I leaving part of myself behind if I'm executive director? And what I decided was, I'm the same person. It's all one hat. I can still be a pianist. I can still conduct a group. It doesn't have to be the Boulder Phil, and I can still lead as an executive.
Awesome. Okay. So second question, how will shows, you know, obviously during the pandemic, we've kind of seen everyone grapple with how to move into sort of a multifaceted meeting and a multifaceted way of consuming things. So Igor Levitt, right, does a tremendous amount of online stuff, and there's people watching him play the piano now during the pandemic that had no idea who he was, myself included. So it sounds like during the pandemic, you've had a fair amount of online outreach. I'm curious, how will shows look different now, if at all, from the way they looked before the pandemic? And how has the pandemic changed the way you kind of reach your audiences?
Great, thank you. You know, first, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is we'll never be the same because we lived through this as an organization. So one way we won't be the same is we will always have online educational content. So I think that's for certain. It doesn't mean we're going to flip to the other side and only do online, because we are in the business of being in person and reaching people in person. So educationally, that I know that will be a direct influence always. Number two, you know, getting people into the hall is something that we have made our mission, right? Like we need to get people in our seats and have them at big orchestral concerts. So we are looking at streaming opportunities. You know, the difficulty there, just to be honest, is, you know, the level of technology it takes to make that a pristine experience for the listener and viewer is expensive. And Mackey Auditorium is not outfitted for that. And there aren't plans in the near future for that to happen. I've talked to CU Presents about it as well. Thankfully, Grusin Hall does have that, and I know smaller venues do have that capability. But we're going to see how we do this year with getting back to in person, and see how much technology our audience is willing to take in when they get back in the concert hall.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Next question is NCW from Las Vegas. Go right ahead, NCW.
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Thank you very much for your slideshow there and some of the numbers. And I noticed in one of the slides that you had compared the online from 2019 to 2020 and 2020, 2021. And obviously, even though during COVID, I mean, reaching out to 23 states and 4 countries and 16,000 students, it's like blows my mind, because it shows you how important it is to be on some kind of innovative technology. I know you said it was expensive, so it's kind of like piggybacking with what Bill says, and that's in regards to, are you going to continue this? Because you're reaching out to a lot of young folks outside of, well, more here in Colorado and outside of Colorado. So
Exactly.
I think the inspiration of music being the universal language, and this proves that you are Boulder is able to reach out and to help all these young students. I think it's awesome. So will that continue?
Yes, it will for our education programming. Yes. And I mean, there are other things to consider, and that is our contract with our musicians and what kind of regulations there are with that, and sharing online content, and what the fees are associated with that. So it's all these different layers, and finding the best ways to connect both in person and online.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Next question is Lena Kotke. Go right ahead, past President Lena.
Sara, it sounds like you are really the right person at the right time for this job, with your ability to thrive on leading through change. And of course, I think it looks like the pandemic is still going to be with us in the fall, and we're not sure for how much longer. And we're all thrilled that, and I'm sure you are, that the orchestra will be back in person, and that you'll have in-person audiences. I'm wondering, will the Phil be developing its own requirements for audience who attend your concerts, in terms of how many capacity issues or masks or vaccine, or will you just rely on the venues where you're performing, like Mackey and Mountain View Church? Thank you, Lena.
We're working closely with CU Presents and Mackey, because they will be, Joan, you all know Joan probably at CU Presents. We're having long conversations about that, how best to handle that with our audience members, because if the restrictions at Mackey completely lift the mask mandate on campus, and require vaccinations, what does that mean for us? And
Right.
it really is venue led. And then I think in, having that partnership with Joan and CU Presents. And so just because so many patrons do attend both of our series, I think that's part of our planning with that, Lena. And
Okay.
At this point, it's 100% capacity in January.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
And in fact, Mackey told us 100% capacity in October. When I spoke by October 1st, when I spoke to them last spring. So that, it kind of takes your breath away at first.
It does.
But we are, we're remaining, that's why we are not seating our patrons and subscribers until December, because we don't want to,
okay.
we're renewing subscriptions. We're selling subscriptions. We'll sell single tickets starting in September, but we aren't actually placing them, solidly in a seat until December. So we have a better sense.
You'll have a little better idea where we are.
Absolutely. And we will either have distancing or we won't, or however it looks.
Good luck with that. Thank you.
I know, right?
Okay, thank you, Lena, for the question. We have two more. The first one comes from Rich Irvin. Go right ahead, Rich.
Okay.
Rich, there we go, Rich.
Okay. All right. Now, so last couple of years, the Boulder Phil has actually been coming up with new music. We had Philip Glass that we actually were able to help pay for it, to have a brand new piece of music to go with by Philip Glass, which was really good. And also this last year, there were some new pieces I don't know if it was by Stravinsky or whatever, but it was an opera that was done by the Boulder Phil at Mackey, I think. And it was very, very interesting, very new. And how do those kind of go over? And is that something that's going to continue, especially with like Stravinsky and Shostakovich and other new music?
Yeah, thank you, Rich. It's always good to see you. I've only met Rich on Zoom, everybody, but he's been with us at the Boulder Phil all year. So I can't wait to see him in person. So yes, I would love to speak about new music. So this year, you're referencing the Corinne Fujiwara piece that we did. it was a commissioned work that she's a living composer from Montana in the Carpe Diem String Quartet. And so we are very interested in new commissions. This year we will have Billy Child's brand new violin concerto. And then the following season, we will have a new commission by Drew Heminger. And that's a piece about global warming. And then we also have our commissioning club that has a new project in the works that I will be talking with them in the fall about. And that is an NEA grant to have a competition for young composers from our region and focusing on BIPOC and female composers who haven't been performed, who haven't had pieces performed by major orchestras yet. So it's sort of, trying to get new up and coming composers performed by an excellent regional orchestra as the Boulder Phil. So yes, Rich, to answer your question, the answer is yes, we still have new music coming down the pipeline and I'll be in touch with you about it.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And the last question goes to Marty Evans. Go ahead, past President Marty.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for being our opening act of the reopening theme. It's great, and congrats on your formal title of now Executive Director. I was thinking when you were responding to Daryl's question about a conductor, it's not unlike a quarterback, because if you don't watch the person, particularly in a choir, and I expect an orchestra, you're going to fall in and be a soloist when you're not expected nor wanted. So it is a pretty important commodity, and you're right, some can be really nasty and some just flail and you think they're going to take off in orbit. However, my question has nothing to do with that. How did you get to Boulder, CU, Colorado? What was part of your musical journey that brought you here with all the places that you've been and will still continue to go?
Great. Thank you, Marty. And thanks for inviting me here today. I was happy to jump at the chance. I hope you guys enjoyed that and I didn't talk too much. Okay, so I grew up in Iowa, went to Boston for my master's degree, ended up teaching in Switzerland at a boarding school, teaching piano. And I met my now husband there. So in order to get him back to the States, I had to look around for a place that kind of looked like Switzerland. So landlocked and the beauty, right? Mountains. And so that was part of it. That was one part of it. But the second part was Ann Epperson at CU Boulder. She was the whole reason why I came here, truly. She was my mentor for collaborative piano because I made the shift from solo pianist to collaborative pianist for my doctorate. And that's the whole reason. She's the reason I came here.
You might tell them what collaborative piano means.
Yes. So gone are the days when you can call us accompanists because we don't just accompany someone. We are truly artists that have our own voice up there, gently guiding and leading from the piano and you don't even know it. So we are collaborative in every sense of the word. With all sorts of chamber music and vocal music, and we work with conductors. We're sort of the most, maybe the most extroverted pianists. As solo pianists tend to be not as extroverted as us, I find, in our character.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marty. And Sarah, you said something about you hope you didn't talk too long. We have to apologize that we're time constrained because I think we could probably hear you talk about, your passions, all afternoon. So that being said, I know Ronnie Wells has something he'd like to say to you as well. Go right ahead, Ronnie. Go ahead and unmute yourself first, Ronnie.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, I'm so happy that you were able to address our Rotary Club today. It gives me a great pleasure to thank you on behalf of the Rotary Club. And just a remark, I first met Sarah about, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago when she became our education and community outreach director. And I was impressed from day one with her joy of music and her joy of teaching and her positive personality. And so it was, I think, fate that led us to, in COVID, we were in the middle of a struggle with a former executive director, and Sara stepped in and became interim for 8 months. And I watched her learn about all these executive things that none of us knew about. And she was learning day by day, and she knew a lot, but she learned a lot. And I'm so happy that she became the executive director of the Boulder Philharmonic, and also that she's a new and important member of this club. So Sara, in your honor, the Boulder Rotary Club is donating 100 doses of polio vaccine to the polio worldwide movement, where the Rotary Club plays such an important leadership role. And I think that within the coming time, we will be eradicating polio forever. And you are a part of that. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, Ronnie. It's an honor. Thank you, everyone. It's really an honor to be here with you. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Sara. It's really amazing. And I'm always astounded by the accomplishments of the people in our club. And it really just underscores just how great our club is. And it's the members like you that create that. So thanks for your talk today.